I'm famous. Okay. Tell me when. I'm famous. Now? Now, testing, Tell me when. over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
testing,
Tell me when.
over and over, testing, repeatedly
Now,
testing,
okay, speak.
Test, test,
repeatedly testing,
test, 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 test,
Yeah,
test,
yeah,
test,
yeah. Of like the top area, right? Yeah,
test,
yeah. Okay, yeah,
test,
yeah. All I'll do is I'll go between
Of like the
having
top
it
area, right?
in my
Yeah.
hand and then sliding it back in.
Okay.
And then
yeah,
coming.
test,
Yeah.
If
All
I
I'll do
slide
is
it
I'll
in
go
and out,
between
it
of like
doesn't
the having it
affect
in my
it as
hand.
much. So and then
Sliding
should
it
be
back
fine.
in. Okay.
And then
Yeah.
coming.
test,
Yeah.
If
All
I
I'll do
slide
is
it
I'll
in
go
and out,
between
it
of like
doesn't
the having it in
affect
my
it as
hand.
much. So
So
and then
sliding
should
it
be
back
fine.
in. Okay.
And then coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
I slide it in and out
That's okay.
yeah.
This is a better
Oh.
mic anyways, and
Yeah.
Like touching
I'll
here
put it.
will.
Yeah.
Oh
If
man.
I slide it in and out.
that's
Or I'll
okay.
start to
This
put
is
it
a
back
better
Oh.
in
mic
here.
I'll
anyways,
be
and
like,
I'll see what. Yeah.
like touching
Like
here
that.
will.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay.
Maybe I'll do it like that.
that's
Or I'll
okay.
start to
This
put
is
it
a
back
better
in
mic
here.
I'll
anyways,
be
and
like,
I'll
okay.
see what. Yeah.
Like touching
As I
here
use
will.
so much.
Oh man.
Okay.
Maybe I'll do it like that.
That's okay.
I guess I'll just
Back in
vibe
here.
here.
I'll
That's
see what. Yeah.
like
As
touching
I
here
use
will. I
so
feel like
much.
maybe it would make
Okay.
people walk by and be like,
Start to put
I
it
guess
back
I'll
in
just
here.
vibe here.
I'll
That's
see
yeah.
what.
Like touching here will. I feel like maybe it would make people walk by
Check,
and be like,
test.
I guess I'll just
So
vibe
what?
here. That's yeah. Sounds
This
good.
one as well.
okay.
I feel like maybe it would make people walk by
Check,
and be like,
test.
I guess
Well,
I'll
why
just
don't
If you
we?
vibe
want to move
here.
around a bit,
That's
Okay.
but I just don't want you to move out of frame. I'm
I'm
here.
probably gonna
Check,
stay here.
test.
Okay. Yeah. I'll stay here and. Okay. Guy.
I just don't
Perfect.
want you to move out of
Yeah.
frame.
Okay.
I'm
I'm
here.
probably gonna.
Check.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll stay here and. Okay. Guy.
I just don't
Perfect.
want you to move out of
Yeah.
frame.
Okay.
I'm
I'm
here.
probably gonna.
Check.
Sounds
Yes.
good. Yeah. I'll
So
stay
I
here
will live in
and.
the evening.
Okay. Guy.
I just don't
Perfect.
want you to move out of
Yeah.
frame.
Okay.
I'm
I'm
here.
probably gonna.
Check.
Sounds
Yes.
good.
Okay.
And then.
So I will live in the evening.
Okay. Guy.
I just don't
Perfect.
want you to move out of
Yeah.
frame.
Okay.
I'm
I'm
here.
probably
Check.
gonna.
Yes.
So
And then
I
this
will
will be
live
like
in the
my
evening.
call,
Okay.
like
Guy.
my
I just
product
don't want
done.
you to
Good to
move
see
out
you
of
again.
frame. I'm here.
Sounds
Check.
good.
Yes.
So
And then
I
this
will
will be
live
like
in
my
the
call,
evening.
like my
I just
product
don't want
done.
you to
Good to
move
see
out
you
of
again.
And
frame.
so my introduction
Sounds good.
basically is gonna be like this is all like information about the forum.
Good to see you
My
again.
so my introduction
Sounds good.
basically is gonna be like this is all like the forum.
Good to see you
My
again.
so
Yeah.
my
So
introduction
Sounds good.
basically is gonna be
this is going to be the
this is
money
all
to keep,
like the
Okay.
and then anything above
my
you
so
saying
my
so
Sounds good.
this is going to be the money to keep,
Okay.
and then anything above you saying leave out as a snippet because this is going to be the money
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's what I'm thinking. So
and we
I'll.
want to keep them all the same. So as long as you just like leave a 1 or 2 seconds,
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's what I'm thinking. So
and we
I'll.
want to keep the
But just make sure
the
I
main
pause here.
the main intro about
Exactly.
with
Yeah. I
the
think that's what I'm
society,
thinking. So
and
I'll.
then the one
But
above
just make sure
the
I
main
pause here.
introducing about
Okay.
with
Sounds good. So like this
okay,
blur
and then the
basically,
one above
but just make
the
sure I
main
pause here. This blurb.
yes.
Okay.
So leave
Sounds good. So
a
take a nice
little bit
pause.
extra gap. Yeah.
Okay. And then this blurb.
Yes.
Pause here. Take a nice pause.
And then, yeah, this
Okay.
part will
And then
we'll
this
segue right
blurb.
into his 2
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay.
And
Pause
we'll leave
here.
that.
Take a nice pause.
Do that. Yeah, this
Okay.
part will
Sounds
and
good.
then we'll
Okay.
segue right into
Perfect.
his.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean
Okay. Pause here. Take a nice pause.
do that. Yeah, this part.
Sounds good.
it's just to give
Okay.
a pause so it can be
Perfect.
cut, right? I totally
I
get
just
it.
don't want you to feel awkward or like, is that enough? Just
Sounds good. To
if
give a
it
pause
feels
so it can
awkward,
be
then
cut,
no
right?
problem.
I sounds good. I think no, I'll just take a breath, and that
Sounds
should give
good.
us enough
Yeah.
time, right? And I'll mark just like I think no, I'll just take a breath. That's my pause zone. Also, right? And I'll mark just like I think no, I'll just take a breath. That's my pause zone. Also, right? And I'll mark just like I think no, I'll just take a breath just so that
Make it easier
pause
flipping.
zone. So basically, just tread. And I'll mark just like I think no, I'll just take a breath just so that
Make it easier
pause
flipping.
zone. So basically, just tread. And I'll mark just like I think
Oh,
no,
is my full 2 minutes going up?
that
Make it easier flipping.
Maybe not. So
Okay. Is my full 2 minutes going up?
I think we only have a minute.
maybe not. So
Okay. Is my full 2 minutes going up?
I think we only have a minute.
maybe not. So
Okay. Is my full 2 minutes going up? Mhm.
I think we only have a minute.
maybe not. So
Okay. Is my full 2 minutes going up? Gotcha. Mhm.
I think we only have a minute.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
And I'll let every candidate know that before that,
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
And I'll let every candidate know that.
Sounds
before
good.
that.
I will. I will just wait here. Gotcha. Sounds good.
And I'll let every candidate know that.
Sounds good. I will. I will just wait here. Gotcha. Sounds good.
And I'll let every candidate know that.
Sounds good. I will. I will just wait here. Gotcha. Sounds good.
And I'll let every candidate know that.
Sounds good. I will. I will just wait here. Gotcha. Sounds good.
And I'll let every candidate know that.
Sounds good. I will. I will just wait here. Gotcha. Sounds good.
And I'll let every candidate know that.
Sounds good. I will. I will just wait here. Sounds good.
And talk to Shazia about how the intro is going to work. So as long as you follow her lead, don't worry about me and the camera. The intro is going to work.
Sounds good. So is it better that I don't look at the camera?
Don't worry
Or
about me and the camera. You said if you need something
sounds
to
good.
vent
So is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay.
or
Or
someone you're arguing with,
maybe I look at people. Sounds good.
answer him.
So is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay.
Just
I have no idea.
you're arguing with
Okay. Maybe I
someone
look at people. Sounds good.
or
Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have
Sounds
no
good.
idea.
You're
Okay.
arguing with
Sounds good.
someone
Sounds good. Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have
Sounds
no
good.
idea. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have
Sounds
no
good.
idea. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have
Sounds
no
good.
idea. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have
Sounds
no
good.
idea. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have
Sounds
no
good.
idea. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have
Sounds
no
good.
idea. Sounds good. Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have no idea. Sounds good. Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have no idea. Sounds good. Yeah. Is it better that I don't look at the camera? Okay. I have no idea. Well, you know. Oh, my bad, my bad. Wait. Well, you know. Oh, my bad, my bad. Wait. Well, you know. This is Coca-Cola.
Oh,
The
my
song.
bad, my bad.
Wait.
Well, you know.
This is
Wait,
Coca-Cola.
I can take it off.
The
Oh,
song.
my bad.
I,
Huh?
this is
Wait,
Coca-Cola.
I can take it off.
The
Oh,
song.
I, huh?
This is
Wait,
Coca-Cola.
I can take it off.
The song.
I,
Huh? This is
wait,
Coca-Cola.
I can take it off.
The song.
I,
This is
well, why? I can take it
because it
off.
was cheaper or what?
Bruh.
Wait, so isn't that against their own contract? What?
Bruh.
Wait, so isn't that against their own contract? What?
Bruh.
Wait, so isn't that against their own contract? What?
Bruh.
Wait, so isn't that against their own contract? What?
Bruh.
Wait, so isn't that against their own contract? What? Wait, so isn't that against their own contract? What? Wait, so isn't that against their own contract? Wait, so isn't that against their own contract? Wait, so isn't that against their own contract? Yo. I guess, yeah. Well, and apparently they're like we're changing things up this year now. Even if you're I guess, uncontested, yeah. You're still gonna have to be like and questions. Apparently that so if you want we're changing things up this year now. Actually, even if it'd be a good opportunity if you want to learn about my portfolio. Apparently that so if you want we're changing things up this year now. Actually, even if it'd be a good opportunity if you want to learn about my portfolio. Apparently that so if you want we're changing things up this year now. Actually, even if it'd be a good opportunity if you want to learn about my portfolio. So if you want yeah. I told as many people that I was running as well as a kind of like yeah as a kind of like I told as many people like fucking that I was running if you want to as a kind of like smoke yeah as a kind of like I told as many people no one wanted the smoke I was like if you want to as a kind of like smoke yeah as a kind of thank you so much. I told as many people no one wanted the smoke I was like if you want yeah you can say that kind of like smoke you can say I'm perfect I told as many people no one wanted the smoke I was like if you want yeah you can say that kind of the smoke you can say I'm perfect I don't know. Maybe when it starts, people are gonna walk by and be like, "Oh shit, what's that?" But right now, I'm just a guy. Maybe when it starts, people are gonna walk by and be like, "Oh, 12 shit, what's that?" Yeah. But right now, I'm just a guy. Maybe when it starts, people are gonna walk by. Me too. 12. Me too. Yeah. Bro, like they were supposed to have a gauntlet one yesterday. Did you hear about it? Me too. And no, they both canceled. Bro, like they were supposed to have a gauntlet one yesterday. Did you hear about it? Me too. And you know, no, you know what my speculation is? They were supposed to have the gauntlet one yesterday. Did you hear about it? Me too. And you know, no, you know like the debate because the gauntlet was gonna host the debate yesterday. And then me too. And you know, no, like the debate. No, the gauntlet was gonna host that empty space. And then, but the gauntlet, like the debate. No, I think it was kind of a message. But the gauntlet, like the debate. No, I think it was kind of a message. Do you want to watch me get your question? Like the in my candidacy? I think it was kind of a message. Do you want to watch me get your question? Like the in my candidacy? I think it was kind of a message. Do you want to watch me get your question? In my candidacy? I think it was kind of a message. Do you want to watch me get your question? In my candidacy? I think it was kind of a message. Do you want to watch me get your question? In my candidacy? I think it was kind of a message. Do you want to watch me get your question? In my candidacy? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm like, let me just make sure I know. I don't know. These aren't even talking about. I'm like, you asked me how many MLAs there are. Make sure I know how many UCP there are. These aren't even talking about. I'm like, you asked me how many MLAs there are. I know on that shit. How many UCP there are. These aren't even talking about. I'm like, you asked me how many MLAs there are. I know on that shit. How many UCP there are. These aren't even. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You asked me how many MLAs there are. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit me with it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. No. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit me with it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yo, some people are taking the popcorn and just. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit. Some people are just taking the popcorn and just leave. Yo, some people are taking the popcorn and just. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit. Some people are just taking the popcorn and just leave. Yo, some people are taking the popcorn and just. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit. Some people are just taking the popcorn and just leave. Yo, some people are taking the popcorn and just. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit. Some people are just taking the popcorn and just leave. Yo, some people are taking the popcorn and just. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit. Some people are just taking the popcorn and just leave. Yo, some people are taking the popcorn and just. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit. Some people are just taking the popcorn and just leave. Yo, some people are taking the popcorn and just. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit. Some people are just taking the popcorn and just leave. Yo, some people are taking the popcorn and just. If I keep talking after you show the thing, you're gonna hit. Some people are just taking the popcorn and just leave. Yo, some people are taking the
Like a couple pieces of tissue, please. Thank you. Thank you. Be quick because we're gonna start.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our annual SU election forums. My name is Shaziah Jinnah Morsette, your current SU president, and I will be your host and facilitator for today. At this forum, we will meet our candidate running to be your next SUVP external for the 2024 to 2025 academic year. Voting will take place from March 5th to March 7th on your student center, so definitely vote. Over the course of the next hour, I will be asking the candidate questions about who they are, what they stand for, and what they know about this position so far. Audience members who have questions may speak to our candidate after the forum is over from 1 to 2:30 p.m. at the tables towards the back, so just over there. Today, I also have with me Saeed, who is going to help us keep time. So each question we ask will have a time limit. Candidate, please keep your eyes open on his indications. So the red panel will mean that there are only 30 seconds remaining, and black means stop. So candidates are not permitted to continue speaking over time, and we will move on once it's over. Candidate, are we ready to go?
Yes.
Let's begin. Please go ahead and tell us who you are and what your campaign is all about.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Mateusz Salmassi. I'm a fifth-year international student in psychology, and I'm happy to be rerunning and running for re-election as your Students Union Vice President External. I've been the VP External at the SU for a bit over a year, and I'm really proud to be able to run on my record. Within just over a year, I was able to lead a protest against the university's board of governors right before a provincial election, winning a 2% tuition cap for domestic students. Um, Over the summer, we were able to pressure the city into investing $25 million into student housing downtown, into adopting one of the most bold housing strategies that will be used to help address the student housing crisis. We've also pushed the university, ridden on the momentum that we had in fall or in the last academic year to get the university for the first time to lower the proposed international tuition increase from 10% to 6% and a whole host of other victories. I'm running, the reason I ran for this position to begin with is because I'm not interested in my resume. I'm not interested in doing it for accolades or for media attention or anything like that. I have been a student who has been worried about paying rent. I've worried about putting food on the table. I've worried about finding work. I'm an international student, and I've dealt with a whole host of these issues myself. And I've been sick and tired of seeing other students go through it. This next year, I'll be pushing for things like making sure our Canada Student Grant is not lowered from 4,200 to 3,000, fighting so that international students' work hours are permanently lifted, fighting for a reversal of budget cuts and tuition hikes, and continuing to fight to expand affordable housing for students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So for the first round, we're going to start with some position-based questions, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer each of these. So definitely keep an eye out again on the time. So for the first question, over the past 5 years, students have had to face multiple challenges regarding affordability of post-secondary education. Excluding tuition, what do you anticipate the biggest affordability challenge for students will be this next year? And why are you the best candidate to address this issue?
I think that it's shaping up to continue to be the housing crisis. I think that I'm the best candidate to address this issue because just over the course of my term as VP External, as I mentioned from the top, securing the $25 million from the city for affordable student housing downtown, but also I was elected as the Director of Advocacy for our Federal Canadian Alliance of Students Associations, and my work there, pressuring even the federal government through strategic media pressure and lobbying, has resulted in the federal government over the last month announcing a new measure allocating funding so that post-secondaries can acquire low-interest loans to build more student housing both on and off campus. I've dragged the university and the media over not building affordable housing in university district. These are just some of the things that I've worked on in the past. And going forward, it's about, in my view, pressuring now the provincial government who has honestly gotten away scot-free, pointing at all the other levels of government,
and saying that they should do something about the housing crisis, but the province can kind of wash its hands of responsibility. Now it's about holding the province accountable too and making sure that they uh, take care of their jurisdiction, which is post-secondary education, invest in on-campus housing, building the couple thousand new residence units that we're going to need if we want students to be able to have a safe and affordable place to live.
Thank you very much for the answer. The next question is the Students' Union advocates municipally with the Calgary Student Alliance, the CSA, and federally with the Canadian Alliance, of Students Associations, CASA. If elected, what roles will you play in each organization and why?
Um, as mentioned before, I'm proud to have been elected as the Director of Advocacy for the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations. Whether I run for a board position or not, I'll have to decide a bit closer to after being elected and see what is the most strategic opportunity. Every time, anytime a VP external or a student leader chooses to run for leadership of one of these different organizations, um, you're you're investing time into that level of government, and you might not be able to invest as much time into advocacy in another level of government. I think over my next term, I want to invest a lot more work into fighting on the provincial level. And so uh, I would turn my focus to the province. When it comes to the Calgary Student Alliance, I would take the leadership that we've shown in Calgary. Like we've had other students unions and other students associations come to us and ask us how we were able to achieve the wins that we were able to at the city level. Can they collaborate with us on provincial advocacy? Can they learn from the ways that we've been able to force our university administration into providing more transparency? I would use the Calgary Student Alliance as that venue to bring other students associations in the city together, so that we can further lobby the city for more measures into affordable housing. One example of another measure would be so many students, especially international students, live in unsafe, unlivable conditions, especially around the university, or they're pushed to the far corners of the city. An important measure we need is landlord licensing, which we got the city to commit to in its newest housing strategy, but we need them to vote and pass it in actual law. By collaborating with the other students associations through the Calgary Student Alliance, we can implement that regulatory regime into actual law.
Thank you very much for the answer. The third question I have for you today is the Students' Union, the CSA, and CASA are all nonpartisan organizations. Have you been involved in partisan politics before? And if so, how will you ensure you remain nonpartisan over the next year in your advocacy work?
Um, I'm an international student from the US. I hate political parties for very good reason. The only extent to which I've been involved in partisan politics in Canada was I volunteered on a campaign for, it was a re-election campaign for an NDP MLA in the Northeast. And I was motivated to invest my time into that because I knew that the current government, if they came into office, would start gutting post-secondary education and increasing tuition, and I was right. But since then, I mean, I've made it clear I have no loyalties to any party. I've uh, advocated and lobbied with the current governing party. Um, Federally speaking, as part of the Canadian Alliance of Student Associations, we've met with everyone from the Liberal Party, liberal ministers to um, conservative critics and NDP critics to get these parties to adopt student issues onto their platform ahead of the upcoming general election, the upcoming federal general election. So I'm more than familiar working like across the aisle, and I have no problem with it.
Thank you very much. Next question I'll take you to is with your knowledge of what the provincial government is responsible for when it comes to student issues, what is the biggest issue you would personally like to advocate for that you believe the province can feasibly deliver on?
I think that the core of the issue that we're dealing with right now, the thing that's driving everything from tuition increases to the crumbling buildings to not having enough TAs and profs, is the gutting of both operating funding to the University of Calgary by the province and the gutting of infrastructure funding to the University of Calgary by the province. I think that there are a ton of opportunities in the next year to collaborate with even business organizations who might recognize the economic value of the university and post-secondary education and students, in collaborating with them to pressure the current provincial government into restoring that funding. Every dollar that's invested into operating funding by the province into the university produces $27.50 in economic output. No responsible government would leave that kind of investment just laying there on the table. So if this government cares about the economy, that's something that they need to start looking at. And I would work to both partner with organizations that this government tends to listen to, while also mobilizing students to put pressure both publicly in the media and on campus onto this government.
Thank you for that answer. All right, the next one is that there are concerns about student mental health, are at an all-time high. Beyond blanket funding initiatives like the Wellness Center, what specific asks would you have for the federal government to support the mental wellness of all students in Canada?
Yeah, this is something that the current federal government promised on their re-election platform to invest $500 million into on-campus mental health by hiring, that money would hire 1,200 new mental health counselors on campuses. They still have yet to deliver. This is an area where I would be collaborating with our federal lobby group to ramp up the media pressure and to say, hey, you think you can go into an election after making a major promise to young people who now you're probably going to be asking to come out and vote for you? You're not going to get away with just having students turn out when you're not actually delivering. So that's a major issue that I would look at federally when it comes to mental health.
Thank you for that answer. Are you in support or against the federal government's implementation of a cap on international students' visas or study permits? Please explain why or why not.
Largely, I'm opposed. I think that implementing a cap on international students is really obfuscating the actual issue. The cost of housing and the cost of living is not the cause of international students. International students overwhelmingly subsidize post-secondary education across all the provinces. The crux of the issue is that over the last 20 to 30 years, cities have refused to change their zoning regulations. Provinces have said we're going to slash community housing and public housing investments, and the federal government said, you know what, this is a city issue, this is a provincial issue. We're not touching this anymore. It was 2016. It was around 2016 when we saw a large number of international students actually begin to be enrolled and arrive to Canada. But about 20 years ago, we were seeing 20 years ago we were seeing some cities see the cost of housing increase by 200 something plus percentage points before international students even started to arrive. So the idea that we're laying blame on international students when it's government's fault, I think is ridiculous. I think now with a cap in place, we have to work with the situation that we're in and fight to press the province to cap international tuition so there's no further incentive to use international students as cash cows, and talk about actual solutions that, are going to require governments actually putting up some money, which means actually investing into building more affordable housing for students and for everyone.
Thank you very much for that answer. The next question I have for you is, this position often needs to meet with members of government who have a busy schedule. What tactics do you think the SU should employ for a member of government who continually refuses to meet with the SU as their constituent?
This might be at somebody. I think a combination of things. I think overall the VP external portfolio has two different tactics, two different overall strategies. One is government relations, and the other one is mobilizing students and that public sphere media pressure. When it comes to government relations, I think we need to build more and more contacts within, if they're a minister, within the civil service, that works underneath them, the policy advisors, the the bureaucrats, if you will, of that ministry, as well as their political staff. So do they have a policy advisor who has a lot of say and influence over that minister, but maybe they have more time and they're not as dodgy about meeting with students. They're not as scared. Building those contacts and relationships, and also tattling to the critics, to the official opposition, going to the official opposition parties and telling them, hey, the government is actually not listening to us on this, and making it a public issue in question period during a legislature session. The other thing, mobilizing students and media pressure, we need to call out those ministers of government. You can't be elected by people and then hide from them. So I think those are some of the tactics that we need to start looking at.
Excellent. Thank you for that answer. The final question of this section of the forum is, oftentimes when meeting with political officials, they will be quick to point the blame at their opponents instead of committing to change that they can accomplish themselves. How do you keep politicians accountable?
I think, yeah, politicians have a habit of passing the buck. I think when you're in a lobbying meeting, you have to take what they're saying and redirect it back onto them. I think, again, this also goes back to the public sphere. When we were talking about housing issues back in the summer, the municipal government was saying, like, really, this is the federal government. Hey, what's the deal with all these international students? Also, the university district is unaffordable. So really, it's the university that's at fault, and it's the federal government. And we said, yeah, they're not great. Don't get us wrong. But right now, we're talking about you. So it's about staying consistent with messaging, and it's about keeping that pressure on. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that answer. That closes off the position question section of the forum for today. And that means we're going to now move into the speed round. So the speed round is going to mean that you're going to write on your board the answer to the question I'm asking. It typically will be a brief answer, not like a full sentence. And with that, you'll have 30 seconds per question to answer. And then at the 30-second mark, you'll show us your answer and we'll go from there. So with that, we'll get started. Ready to go? Awesome. Okay. First question. Who is the city councilor for the university's main campus and what ward are we in? Awesome. And that is correct. Terry Wong is our city councilor for the university, and that is because he represents Ward 7, which is our area that we're in. All right. The next one we're going to go to is, I'll give you a sec to raise board. No rush at all. All right. Ready to go? Perfect. Who is the Minister of Advanced Education? And for a bonus point, what area of the province is she an MLA for? That is indeed correct. The Minister of Advanced Education is Rajan Sani, and for the bonus point, she is the MLA for Calgary Northwest. All right, ready to go? Perfect. What are the university committees that the VPX sits on? And go and list as many as you can.
Should I just do acronyms or no?
Write them out full. Yes. Got 30 seconds. All right. So the answers on the board here are the Tuition and Fees Consultation Committee, which is absolutely correct. The VP External sits on that with the president of the Students' Union. And then the other one listed is Active Living and Athletics Committee, which is, again, in fact correct, as that is a committee that we are part of to consult on athletics and active living, and that is sat on by the VP External. So thank you very much. All right, we'll move to the next question here. All righty. Okay. Other than the Minister of Advanced Education and the Premier, can you name one provincial government elected official the SU is or should be working closely with to advance student advocacy? And for bonus points, you list both the minister, the ministry, and the name of the minister. Perfect. That is actually a really great one. The Minister of Finance is also the president of the Treasury Board, so deals with all things money in the Alberta government, and that is correct. The name of that that person is, oh, close. But the name of that minister is Nate Horner.
Oh.
Very close. You had listed Nathan Thorne, so pretty close. Alrighty. Ready to go? Awesome. Okay. What is the next election that Calgarians will vote in? Municipal, provincial, or federal? And this one might be a little bit nuanced, so go for it. Alrighty. That is indeed correct. Federal election is the most likely to be the next election that Calgarians will vote in, but the chance is there that if a federal election isn't called prior to kind of the deadline for that, the deadlines for the municipal election in Calgary and the federal election are both in October 2025. So there's a toss-up and chance in the air of both of those. Gosh, that would be a crazy get out the vote time. All right, we'll go to the next question here. The Students' Union has been an advocate for Alberta re-implementing the STEP program. What does STEP stand for? And for bonus points, when was it shut down? Amazing. That is indeed correct. The Summer Temporary Employment Program, otherwise known as STEP, was shut down in 2019 when the UCP government came into power. And since then, we haven't seen a jobs program quite like that that directly helps students find positions in the summertime. All right, the next question I have for you is, what percentage is the cap on annual domestic tuition increases? And that is correct, 2%. Since we got an extra second in here, for the nuanced answer that you can write on for extra points on this one is the 2% cap on annual domestic tuition increases. Now, is that per program, or is it possible for there to actually be higher percentages in certain programs and lower percentages in others? And if so, why is that? Right on your board.
Oh. Yes, it is possible.
All right. Quite a good answer. I like the full sentence. Yes, it is possible to go higher if there is an exceptional tuition increase. That is in fact correct. The other answer could have been that it's the average across all programs of 2%. So in fact, that could mean that one program actually increases higher, but would need to be offset by lower increases in another program to actually balance that off. So overall, there's only a 2% on average increase across all programs. But exceptional tuition increases are a very valid answer. All right. The next question I have for you is to please name one different news outlet in the following categories without any repeats that may ask the VP External for an interview from each print media, radio, and television. So one news outlet per each print media, radio, and television that may reach out to the VP External for an interview.
Print.
Print, radio, television. Awesome. It's a really good answer. So I can confirm, yes, in fact, print, one of the ones is the Calgary Herald, radio is CBC for sure, and television definitely is CTV2. And there was a lot of different answers that could have been correct answers for this, but those are some of the more frequent ones that we do work with. All right, take your time, no rush. All right, next question. Ready to go? Perfect. Since 2019, the Alberta government has cut over $100 million to OPSG, often referred to as the Campus Alberta Grant. What does OPSG actually stand for? All right, very close, but the OPSG refers to the Operating and Program Support Grant. So very close with some of the answers you had on there, along the right track. But OPSG stands for Operating and Program Support Grant, and that is kind of the name for the Campus Alberta Grant now in the larger context of budget. All right, for the final speed round question, how many members of parliament represent Calgary?
I'm American.
Again, very, very close. Just two off, we have 10 members of parliament representing Calgary across the city. Very close, though, very close. I did not know the answer to that one either. I had to look it up. All right. Now we're going to move into the next round, so you can move your whiteboard aside if you'd like. So this round is going to be the critical thinking round. I will give you a few questions within this round, and ultimately you're going to have about 3 minutes each to answer, 3 minutes to answer each question. So definitely take your time. And are we ready to get started? All right. In the last calendar year, there was no successful vote from any academic group at this university that saw students vote in favor of going on strike despite the ample opportunity. What are some other avenues of building student engagement with improving their academic careers besides strike votes, which may not be something there is an appetite for at this time? And you got 3 minutes.
Oh, thank you. I think there are a lot of other tactics, but I do want to push back on the premise of the question a little bit. I think there's a bit of an implication that because one strike vote, because I believe 2 departments didn't reach their quorum, they came close in the fall semester, that means there's no appetite on campus. Quite frankly, I have in my platform a mention of large-scale student strikes because I think that leaving it up to ragtag groups of students who don't have access to resources and aren't part of formal structures, are not part of their department clubs, not part of their department associations, can't leave it up to them. I think the Students' Union needs to start taking more of a leadership role in actually bringing those students together and creating formalized structures and working with those smaller units at the department club, department association levels to organize those kinds of strikes. But there are plenty of other tactics as well that we can look at, whether that's protesting like we did in winter of 2023 against the Board of Governors. It could be sending in mass a large amount of postcards, flooding the mailbox of the Minister of Advanced Education with postcards, as we did earlier in the semester. It can be having students showing up to MLA offices and things like that. I think there are a number of other tactics when it comes to pressuring government. It's a bit difficult because government is not on campus. Um, so that's always a struggle when it comes to getting student political pressure onto government. But uh, I think combining that with finding students who are willing to tell their stories in media is also extremely important, because when we get a media story and they ask for a student with lived experience on a particular issue, it's paramount, I think, that we're able to point them in the right direction to someone, because it makes that media pressure so much more powerful on government. So I guess that would be my answer.
Thank you very much for that answer. All right, we'll go to the next critical thinking question. And again, you'll have a full 3 minutes to answer, so don't be shy to use the full time. Over the past few years, we have had tuition continue to climb up. The SU has taken different approaches to bringing attention to the issue depending on the circumstances. There are various stakeholders involved, such as the Tuition and Fees Committee, university admin, and the provincial government. How do you work with the other executives to have a balanced approach when dealing with all of these different groups? And how do you effectively communicate with students so that they can understand the whole picture?
I think I'll start with communicating with students. I think the SU needs to be on Reddit on the regular. I think the SU needs to be posting a lot more you know, a lot more reels. Every executive needs to be, you know, showing up on Instagram, showing their faces. I think executives need to be taking time out of their week to get out of the office and go out and talk to students in any context, whether it's tied to a specific issue, but breaking out of the bubble that I think it's easy to form when we're working full time, more than full time, 40 to 50 hours a week. We're in the office all the time. I think if all we're talking, if the only people we're talking to are politicians and administration, it's easy to lose like our foundation. In terms of, sorry, I forgot the other part of your question.
I can repeat the question.
Yes, please.
Yes. So over the past years, we've had tuition continue to climb up. The SU has taken different approaches to bringing attention to this issue depending on the circumstances. There are various stakeholders involved, such as the Tuition and Fees Committee, university admin, and the provincial government. How do you work with other executives to have a balanced approach when dealing with all of these groups? And then the one you already answered was the effective communication with students so they can understand the whole picture.
Okay, thank you. In terms of working with other executives, every other executive has a specific portfolio that they'll be working on. So to give you an example, if the VP internal is working specifically on the limitations and the barriers that students are facing when it comes to the wellness center, I need to be somewhat in the loop to understand how to be able to shape our asks to government, so that whatever our asks are would actually solve that issue on campus. The other is, say, for example, if the VP academic is speaking to hearing a ton of concerns from students around inadequate infrastructure in classrooms, that's something that can be directly translated into a government related ask. And likewise, my role as VP external should be to take the information that I might learn in my work dealing with government. Let's say hearing that, let's say reviewing the budget that's about to be released, and working with my executive to help them understand how it might impact their portfolio. Are there cuts to mental health funding? Were there more constraints on how mental health funding is distributed, et cetera, so that there's a holistic understanding in the different portfolios and in my own portfolio.
Thank you very much for that answer. The next question, again with 3 minutes to answer, will be without revealing confidential information. Please reflect on one personal weakness that you've had in the past year as VP External, and tell us how you will approach your growth to this, if you growth on this, sorry, if you are elected again.
That's a good question. I feel as though I feel I feel like one of the areas where it's hard not to talk about a specific example, but I think that I think that I should. Sorry, can you repeat the question? Actually?
I can absolutely, and you can definitely take a moment to reflect and put your answer together within that 3 minutes. So, without revealing confidential information, please reflect on one personal weakness that you've had in the past year as VP External, and tell us how you will approach your growth on this if you are elected again. So, an example could work as long as it's not confidential.
Okay. Um, I think I can get if we're talking personal, I think I can get too intense about an issue, and it can I think result in a little bit of tunnel vision where it's difficult to think of the larger picture and pull myself away to understand like, okay, is this the end all be all? Is this really um, is this issue the make or break? Does this have to be like thought of? Does every single outcome have to be thought of ahead of time? Uh, because yeah, does every single like potential outcome need to be thought of ahead of time? I think it can result in like analysis paralysis, um, and it can get in the way of like just getting to it. I don't know if that's too vague, but I guess that's
Thank you very much for that answer. I've got one more question for you within the critical thinking section where you'll again have 3 minutes to answer. So, as a vice president, you are required to work with the other members of your executive team, especially when challenging issues arise or the SU needs to develop a strategy to deal with a problem. What role do you play in this group when two of the members are in disagreement about the next move forward, and why?
I think I think my role I think my role should generally be one of like if there are two other members of the executive, they're likely like and in this scenario, I'm understanding it as for example, two other vice presidents with very specific portfolios that I don't necessarily have a background in. So I think my role would be like asking each of them questions to kind of draw out more and more information, and then like gently make suggestions or tactfully point out where I think both might be actually where both might actually have common ground, and how I might suggest they may be able to get on the same page and move forward. Yeah.
And thank you very much for that answer. So, with that, we have come to the end of the critical thinking section of the forum. And that brings us a little earlier than usual to the kind of final pitch section. So, with that, I will let you know that you get 1 minute to make a final pitch. So, ultimately, why should the student body vote for you? You got 1 minute.
Okay. I have the experience I have the experience and have been able to achieve major results on major files, everything from tuition to student housing to transparency from our administration. I plan to build on these wins to build further and pressure the provincial government for things like a tuition freeze, to push for expanded housing supports, and to finish the work that I started federally when it comes to lifting the regulations that negatively impact international students. And yeah, I think I'll say that.
Thank you very much. With that, we are going to wrap up for today. So, for that, thank you very much to you all for coming. And for those online watching, thank you for engaging. Remember to please vote March 5th to 7th. That's next week on your My Student Center. If you have any questions about how to get voting, there are going to be folks walking around campus getting that vote out. Those are really good people to ask, and they're going to be wearing white t-shirts that'll be pretty identifiable on campus. In addition, we have some more forums this week. So we have tomorrow the VP Internal Forum. We have the VP Academic Forum on Friday at the same time. And on Monday next week, we have the Contested President's Forum. So with that, I will just remind you all that these are the students that will be potentially representing you next year. So please ensure you are using your voice to choose who those people are. This is a great time to have your voice heard as a student and just really get involved. So with that, I'll close off by just saying that if you have any questions for your candidate, please address them at the back tables, which will likely be kind of manned by you until I think 2:30. And if you have any questions, that's where you'll find them. Candidate platforms and information are also available on the SU website. And with that, thank you very much for joining us.